Every day we are keeping our promises. We've created 3.4 million jobs since Election Day, which nobody can even believe. Nobody believes it.
Hey there, America! Let's talk jobs, baby! Specifically, jobs during the Trump years. Buckle up because it's a wild ride. Now, some folks might try to tell you it was all sunshine and rainbows. Best economy ever, they'll yell, probably while wearing a hat they bought off Fox News' website. But here's the thing. Economies are complicated, like trying to understand your uncle's Facebook rants complicated. Trump inherited an economy already on an upswing. Thanks, Obama. So, taking credit for that initial growth is like taking credit for the sun coming up each morning. That said, those early Trump years did see some continued job growth. Was it huge, like he promised? Let's just say the jury's still out on whether those were small hands or just alternative facts. Okay, so from January 2017 to February 2020, the US economy added roughly 6.6 million jobs. Not too shabby, right? Unemployment was low, wages were kind of sort of creeping up, and folks were feeling cautiously optimistic. But hold your horses, folks. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This growth wasn't exactly evenly distributed. Some industries boomed, others struggled. And let's not forget about those pesky income inequality issues that never seem to go away. Still, you gotta give credit where credit's due. For a while there, things were looking, well, if not amazing, then at least not actively on fire. Which, let's be honest, counts for something in this day and age. And then, bam! March 2020. Remember that? Yeah, no one could have predicted a global pandemic would crash the party, right? Except, all those scientists and epidemiologists who'd been warning us for years. But hey, who listens to experts anyway? Suddenly, the economy wasn't just on fire, it was engulfed in a raging inferno of biblical proportions. Businesses shut down, people stayed home, some of them, anyway, and the job market went completely haywire. It was a disaster. A dumpster fire, a tire fire inside a dumpster fire, which is also on fire. Section 4. The freefall millions lose their jobs, chaos reigns. We're talking record-breaking job losses, folks. By April 2020, over 22 million Americans had filed for unemployment. 22 million! That's more people than live in New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago combined. Remember those cautiously optimistic vibes from a few months earlier? Yeah, those were gone. Replaced by fear, uncertainty, and a whole lot of people wondering how they were going to pay their rent. It was a mess, plain and simple. And while some folks were lucky enough to weather the storm relatively unscathed, many others weren't so fortunate. Section 5A partial recovery, more like picking up the pieces. Now, in fairness, the economy did start to bounce back a bit after that initial freefall. By the time Trump left office, some of those lost jobs had returned. But not all of them. Not by a long shot. And let's not forget about the long-term damage. Businesses closed, careers were derailed, and millions of Americans were left struggling to pick up the pieces. It was a stark reminder that even in the greatest economy ever, things can change in the blink of an eye. Section 6. So, how'd he do? The final jobs tally on Trump's scorecard. So, when all was said and done, what was the final jobs tally under President Trump? Well, despite the initial growth, the pandemic hit the economy hard. And by the time he left office in January 2021, the US was down about 2.9 million jobs from where it had been 4 years earlier. Was it all his fault? Of course not. But did his policies help or hurt? That's a question for the economists and historians to debate. What we do know is that the Trump years were a roller coaster ride for the American job market. And, like most roller coasters, it was probably more fun to watch from a distance. Pause 2S. Section 7. The Job Recovery, a closer look at Trump's last year. The job recovery during Donald Trump's presidency, particularly after the initial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, saw significant yet incomplete gains. Here's a detailed look at the recovery process. Pause 1S. By April 2020, the U.S. had lost over 22 million jobs due to the pandemic's economic shutdowns and restrictions. ### recovery efforts. Pause 1S. Starting in May 2020, the job market began to recover as states lifted restrictions and businesses reopened. There were substantial job gains in the months following the initial shutdown. Pause 2S. For example, in June 2020 alone, the U.S. added about 4.8 million jobs. Throughout the summer and fall of 2020, the job market continued to improve, albeit at a slower pace than the initial rebound. Pause 1S. By the end of Trump's term in January 2021, the U.S. had recovered approximately 12.5 million of the 22 million jobs lost during the initial months of the pandemic. Pause 1S. Despite these gains, there was still a net job loss of about 9.5 million jobs from the peak employment level in February 2020 to January 2021. Pause 1S. The job market saw a significant recovery after the initial pandemic-related losses, but it was not a full recovery. The net effect was that, by the end of Trump's presidency, the U.S. economy had fewer jobs compared to the pre-pandemic peak. Pause 1S. Federal stimulus measures, including direct payments to individuals, enhanced unemployment benefits, and support for businesses through programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, played a crucial role in the recovery. Pause 1S. Some sectors, such as leisure and hospitality, were hit harder and recovered more slowly than others like technology and finance. Pause 2S. In conclusion, while there was a notable job recovery during Trump's presidency after the initial COVID-19 pandemic shock, it did not fully offset the losses, leaving the overall job numbers down compared to pre-pandemic levels.